Mark Levin, you know him. He's on radio. He's on television. He'll come to your house and cut your lawn if you're nice to him. I mean, he's just everywhere. So this is what I can't explain to my audience very lucidly. These big corporations that would be dismantled, actually confiscated if Marxism was the system in America, they're pumping millions of dollars into that system. Can you explain it?
Well, if you look at history, and thank you, Bill, for having me, there were a lot of corporations that worked hand in glove with Nazi Germany, with the Third Reich, even though they were claiming to be capitalist organizations. They're not really so much pro-capitalism as they're pro-corporatism. And I explain in the book a couple attitudes about this. Number one, the boards have moved hard left with newer and newer board members. Number two, they want to destroy their competition. What better way to destroy your competition than to get in bed with the regulators? Number three, many of them have decided that the Democrat Party and this agenda is going to win because in so many respects, the Republicans are weak, that these movements have already devoured many cultural aspects of our society. And so it's not that they're particularly patriotic. Many of them want to do business in China. Many of them do business in China. They don't much care about how much genocide is going on there. And so these are a different type of corporate boardroom I think we're dealing with today and over the last several decades. So it doesn't surprise me. And of course, they get no pushback from us. The left goes to shareholder meetings. They show up by the hundreds. They make demands. They conduct boycotts and they try to get pension funds to divest. We don't do anything except complain about it and talk about it. And that's one of the points of my book. It's time that we become a little bit more engaged. We don't have to change our lives the way they do. They're 24/7 at this. But how about we spend a few minutes every day or an hour every week doing what we need to do to push back? And we need to begin boycotting. We need to begin sanctioning. We need to begin divesting.
All right, let's get to that. We'll get to that in a minute. But I still want to I want to pick up this theme. So Disney, you don't get more American than Disney, all right? The Disney Corporation is full woke. Would you agree with that? They're 100% in. Okay. Now, I don't know whether Bob Iger, a billionaire, runs Disney. I don't think he's a Marxist or a socialist. But what he does is enable this kind of fascism, particularly on speech, to take root. That's what he does. And I'll give you an example. I think you may know this. In Disney World in Orlando, Florida, and in Disneyland in Anaheim, California, the public address people can no longer say the words, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. They're gone. That's fascism, okay? They're ordered.
No, that's Marxism.
Well, you link it into Marxism, okay.
I'll explain it in a minute.
All right, but I don't think Iger and the board of Disney would cop to being Marxists. I don't think they would.
I want to explain that.
Okay.
It's not that they cop to being Marx. I didn't call the book Marxism. I called it American Marxism. It's an Americanized form of Marxism. And it's for this reason. They have adapted the fundamentals, the oppressed versus the oppressor, the victim versus the victimized. They reject so many of our founding principles, whether they're billionaires, whatever they're doing and so forth is beside the point. They're not Marxists in the old Soviet way. They're not Marxists, they're not Maoists, they're not Leninists. But they embrace the idea that the culture is rotten because they promote it. If they didn't promote it, then it wouldn't matter what all these Marxist movements are doing. They embrace the idea. You can't find a dime's worth of difference with them on Black Lives Matter. You just said they help subsidize them. They say almost nothing about Antifa. When it comes to climate change, which I explain in the book is an old degrowth movement that came out of Europe, they're all in on climate change. They help fund these movements. They're all in on critical race theory. And this is what I mean. It's an Americanized, Taylorized form of Marxism. No, they don't want to nationalize businesses and stuff like that. But they take the fundamentals where you must have class warfare based on whatever it is. Marx talked about economic class warfare. This Americanized form has expanded it. It's been tailored to our American system to seek our imperfections.
Do you think that Iger and the boys sitting there in Beverly Hills are aware of that? Do you think they're doing it on purpose?
Well, they're not doing it by accident.
So you think that they know the Disney and the board of directors and the CEO know and want them to tear down the traditional American system, both economically and socially. You think they want to do this and are using the power of their corporation to make it happen?
Actually, it doesn't matter to me whether they think it or not. This book isn't written for the media. It's not written for the corporate titans. It's not written for the left. It's written for the average American to read and find out what's going on in this country. But let me address that. Not only doesn't it matter to me what they think they are, the fact of the matter is they're promoting it. If these corporations weren't promoting it, and if these various cultural institutions like our media were not promoting it, it wouldn't be an issue.
That's
if our
true.
school districts weren't promoting it, it wouldn't matter.
That's absolutely
true. The culture has been conquered. And so here's what happened. I looked at this. I didn't come up with this title until 3 months before I turned this book in. I said, what the hell is going on here? And I went back, I'll give you an example, climate change. I said, what? Climate change, climate warming, climate cooling, is it happening? Isn't it happening? This is a movement. 1 degree here or there. They want to change our entire economy. Who are these people? And I go back and I researched it and I saw this comes out of the 1970s, out of Europe, an entire movement. It's all out there for people to see. It's not about global warming or cooling or climate. It is about a degrowth movement aimed first at the United States, the Industrial Revolution, which Marx was always upset about the Industrial Revolution because it proved his entire theory false. The bourgeoisie was not overthrown by the great proletariat. The great proletariat became the great middle class that loves America and defends America and fights for America. So they've been on a hate-on the American capitalist system from day one, and they hate being called what I call them. Whether they believe it or not, I don't much give a damn. You can't find, Bill, a dime's worth of difference between the vast majority of the media today and any of these movements.
No, all right. We'll get to the media in a moment.
Yeah.
Now, on page 34 of your book, you have a quote from a guy who says, social movements thrive on conflict. And what basically that is that you have to create so much chaos if you want to change a system. And you can see that throughout history. I know you're a historian. You know how the Russian Revolution happened, how the rise of the Third Reich happened. And you've got to create all of this confusion so that people just don't know what the deuce is going on, and that they then go into whatever they feel is safe or what promises them the most. And that is a very, very smart theme of your book. Now, my question, because you know I'm a simple man. Joe Biden is a leader of the United States. He has done more to enable the progressive left and all of the woke stuff than any other president in history, including Barack Obama, by far. Now, Biden will never read your book, and I don't even think he'll have the time to have Jill read it to him, okay? But if you were to have him right here, Biden would never admit to being, oh, I don't want Marxism, I don't want socialism. You know he wouldn't. Do you think he has any clue what's really happening?
Here's the thing. One of the things I also say in the book is this, Bill. We have to take the language back, and we have to understand what's going on in this country. This isn't liberalism. This isn't progressivism. This isn't social activism. This isn't democratic socialism, which are two terms that don't really work together. This is what it is. And they may not like me calling it, but my calling it exactly what it is. And that's part of the book. We have to have the courage to use the terms properly. Now, as a perfect example, the early progressive movement was a byproduct of Marxism. The early progressives, whether Woodrow Wilson, but in particular John Dewey and so forth, they embraced it. John Dewey went back to Moscow in 1928 when Stalin was in full roar. And he looked at the educational system and he said, this is what we need to be doing. We need to unite around the communal. We have to, and you've talked about this. I think you call them the SPs or something to that effect. And
right.
It's exactly right.
Right. But yeah. Biden himself, as the leader, is cultivating this. He's making it easier for the Ocasio-Cortezes and all of these people. Do you think he knows what he's doing?
These people will never say, he found me out, Levin did. I'm an American Marxist. Of course not. But I want Frank and Sally and Muhammad and Yitzhak and everybody else in America to understand. This is what they're promoting. They self-identify as something else. This is also another tactic. In terms of Biden, no, of course he doesn't know. But he is the main, as you point out, the main foil through which they operate. He has signed executive order after executive order promoting every one of these movements.
So I don't think he knows what he's doing, period. He's never really had any spine. You know that from his senatorial career. Right. I think his church is going to boot him in November, and that'll be a huge story. Final question on politics. Kamala Harris, is she more hardcore progressive than Biden?
You know, I don't know, Bill, if we've ever had a time, certainly in modern history, we've had two people who are completely unqualified to serve in the positions they're in. Kamala Harris, though, is more of an outwardly ideological, I think. Biden is a chameleon, but I think she's more outwardly ideological. There's not a single one of these, what I call these spawned American Marxist movements, that she disagrees with. In fact, she had a more radical voting record than Bernie Sanders. That's another one who gets away with, I'm a Democratic socialist. That guy's been an old red Marxist since day one when he was screaming on a soapbox in Brooklyn, New York. But that said, yes, she clearly is. I mean, look, do they talk about individual liberty ever? Do they talk about American sovereignty ever? Do they ever praise American capitalism? They trash the founders. They trash the founding. They trash the Declaration and the Constitution. They support people pulling down monuments. They support people effectively burning books, brainwashing our children. If it's not what I call American Marxism, then what the hell is it?
Last question. NBC is the most woke of the powerful corporations that control the media. That's Comcast. All right. Second is AT&T, CNN. I see it as a money play for NBC. They got their butt kicked when I was at Fox News. They could never do anything. They never made any money. But then they went far left, and now they're making a little bit of money. CNN was the Hate Trump network. They made a little money doing that. Is it all about money for Comcast and AT&T, or are they buying into this progressive socialist trend?
I think in this specific respect, these massive corporations that own these news platforms, they don't need to own these news platforms. They can make a ton of money without them. I think they own them as a protection racket. CNN's never going to do a negative story on AT&T, and NBC and MSNBC are never going to do a negative story on Comcast. So I think they like having these outlets. They like having them woke. They're part of that milieu of corporatists who are down for the revolution, even though they're out there trying to make every little nickel they possibly can. So I just want to be clear. I know they don't self-identify as American Marxists. If they did, I wouldn't have to write this book. I'm identifying them. I'm explaining why I think they are, that it is a unique form of Marxism. There was a great piece written by Professor Paul Kengor from Grove City in the American Spectator. And he's an expert on communism. He's an expert on the Cold War. And he said, what's unique about this book is that he feels I've identified something that's happening, something that's going on, and I've labeled it properly. And we'll see, because I think I have, but we'll see if people agree with me.
And you're on your radio and television platforms, you're saying to the American people, in these corporations, the ones we just named and many, many more, don't do business with them, right? Just don't do business with them.
To the extent you can, boycott them. And then also look what we did with Goya. Also promote those who are patriotic. I mean, what the hell? Why should we subsidize our own demise? Why should we subsidize companies that hate our guts?
Does that go for movie stars and people like that? Is that, Leonardo DiCaprio, Aniston, these
right.
people? Okay. All right, the book number 1, and I'm not holding a grudge that Killing the Mob's number 3.
We love you, Bill.
American Marxism, Mark Levin. Thanks very much. Hope we can talk again. I appreciate you coming on.
You too.
Okay.
God bless.
Fellow Americans, I am concerned about the U.S. dollar. Huge debt, as you know. Will it stay as the world's reserve currency? That's why now more than ever, I recommend you diversify with gold and silver. And the only company I recommend, and have for years, is American Hartford Gold. I trust them. I've personally done business with them. They sell physical gold and silver delivered right to your door or put inside your IRA. And they make it very easy. So call them right now. Make sure you tell them Bill O'Reilly sent you, and they will give you up to $2,500 of free silver on your first order. Since I have been recommending American Hartford Gold, gold shot up more than 40%. Silver, more than 60%. So don't wait. Call them now. 866-501-5201. 866-501-5201. Or text Bill to 65532. Again, that's 866-501-5201. Or text Bill to 65532. Bill O'Reilly here. Thank you for watching this video, and make sure you subscribe to the First TV YouTube page. Just hit the big red subscribe button below, and you'll get clips and highlights of my program, The No Spin News, every single day. We'll see you soon.